The war's greatest battle stood apart from all others on this soil in its scale and savagery. On the 1st of July, 1863, two massive armies met in combat across the fields, orchards, and forests surrounding Gettysburg. For 3 full days, they fought with relentless fury, offering no mercy. This immense engagement is widely considered the pivotal moment within the great struggle that forms the core of the American story. The bloodiest episode of a fraternal war, the encounter was also a slaughter of epic proportions. Close to 30% of all the men who fought at Gettysburg were killed. Roughly 28% of the troops in George Gordon Meade's Army of the Potomac and more than 37% in Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia perished in the fighting. Some 64,000 soldiers from both Union and Confederate forces were dead, wounded, or missing by the conclusion of the Gettysburg campaign in Pennsylvania. Severed limbs were piled high and interred in mass graves at field hospitals near Gettysburg. If you appreciate our historical content, we'd be grateful for your support. Please like and subscribe to help us continue sharing these stories. Elizabeth Thorne, the wife of the town's biggest cemetery owner, was said to have personally dug more than 100 graves while she was pregnant. The dead were collected from various locations on the battlefield and interred near the places where they had fallen. Among the bodies found on Cemetery Ridge was a woman who had fought for the Confederacy while concealing her identity. It is reported that another Southern woman, also in disguise, had her leg taken off during the charge up Cemetery Ridge. This community, plus the 8 to 10 miles of countryside around it, is essentially one vast, overfilled medical ward. The residents have freely given every single usable space in the town for the casualties. The men were in a terrible condition. As they lay on the wet earth, many had nothing beneath them. This hospital witnessed a remarkably large quantity of amputations, the severed limbs left lying directly on the ground. The majority of the men, nearly all of them, were without garments. There was no proper food to be had. The surgeons were overwhelmed, without supplies, and many of the men were almost entirely naked and covered in grime. They were abandoned in the muck, shrieking, weeping, and begging their comrades or visitors to end their suffering. They also had no shelter. Were it not for the extraordinary measures taken, several individuals would have been drowned yesterday during a severe thunderstorm with powerful gusts and torrential rain. Soldiers from both Union and Confederate ranks fell victim to the lethal combination of 19th-century military medicine and explosive artillery shells with soft lead Meade balls. Over 2/3 of all gunshot injuries affected an arm or a leg. For most projectile injuries, the hole where the bullet exited was usually much bigger than where it entered. More substantial wounds can be caused by bullets that ricochet or become flattened, which can also drive foreign debris into the injury. The Meade ball's capacity for severe tissue destruction, combined with its habit of introducing contamination, led to a sharp rise in infectious complications. A round entered my right arm and passed straight through as we advanced. An artillery shell exploded while we were charging across the wheat field, killing 2 of my friends and smashing my right leg. After being shot in the arm, I felt a numbness comparable to a sharp blow on the funny bone. I at once looked at my comrade and demanded to know why he had hit me. My leg gave way and I collapsed. I remained on the ground, disoriented for a time, before understanding that enemy troops were closing in on me. Recollections of Private Jacob Henry Cole, 57th New York. The standard treatment for a wound was a conservative approach, with surgery restricted to extracting the bullet, debris, and fragments of bone, provided the damage to the bone itself was minimal. Yet medical officers in the Civil War quickly learned that amputation was the most reliable treatment when a bone was extensively shattered. Though the soldier lost the limb, he was saved from life-threatening outcomes like poisoning of the blood, gangrene, infection of the bone, and a potentially fatal streptococcus contagion. Excision procedures, which involve cutting away a section of shattered bone, were also done, but these operations had higher total mortality rates than both amputations and conservative treatments. Surgeons often performed amputations throughout the night, completing one about every 10 minutes. Less serious wounds were managed with lint packing, a moist dressing, and the extraction of any debris, time permitting. Injuries to the head, neck, chest, and stomach received the least consideration, if any at all. The majority of these casualties were given opiates and permitted to die, as there was almost nothing Civil War surgeons could do to save them. I was hit in my left arm during a skirmish on Friday afternoon near Gettysburg. A musket ball shattered the bone above the elbow. After I reached this hospital on Saturday the 4th, highly competent surgeons amputated my arm that same afternoon. It was taken off in its middle section, which of course leaves a stump of just 6 inches. While I was under chloroform, I was completely unaware of the procedure, though the subsequent days were quite agonizing. Still, I have confidence that my recovery is proceeding favorably. Sergeant Alexander Blake, 1st Missouri. During hand-to-hand fighting, numerous soldiers were also struck or shot directly in the face. The injury of Private Joseph Harvey, caused by an artillery shell fragment instead of a bullet, exemplifies a typical facial wound. It felt as if a sluice gate in my neck had burst, unleashing a cascade of blood. I had a sensation of something like a chicken bone in my mouth, a loose object sitting in my left cheek. This floating object was, in reality, a part of my own jaw, complete with teeth, which had fractured and was now adrift inside my mouth. Taken by the enemy, this soldier remained a captive for 11 days. By mid-July 1863, he had been hospitalized at Alexandria's Mansion House Hospital. Sections of the bone, which had peeled away, were surgically removed in August. Because the substantial loss of cheek tissue had not been repaired, liquids and saliva would leak from the opening. The right side of his face was partially paralyzed, and he suffered from mild deafness. Granted a pension, this soldier was announced to have died from causes unknown on December 9, 1868. While the nascent field of plastic surgery saved some men, a facial wound from a shell fragment or bullet most often signified a nearly guaranteed death.